Thank you, Terry DeWalt Mason. Thank you for that. Let's try it again. Take two. Welcome to the Upper Room family. This is Minister Dee Dee Gray. Thank you for tuning in on tonight for a special edition, Bible is Black History Online edition, powered by Eastern Star Church. Our pastors, Pastor Jeffrey A. Johnson Sr., you all know how we do it. We have to make sure everybody is in the room. So, our Fishers fam, let us know that you are here. Our Cooper Road family, let us know you are in the room on tonight. And also the main attraction, the main campus, the mothership. Let us know you are in the building. And any of our church family from around the city of Indianapolis, the country, or even the world, let us know that you are in the building. We hope Mount Carmel Church is on with us on tonight because we are so delighted to have your pastor with us, Dr. Theron D. Williams, along with Pastor Johnson, who hasn't been in the upper room in a while. So we're glad to have him back on tonight for this special edition. Fishers fam, I see you. Cooper Road, I see you as well. Main campus, don't let me down, family. Let me know you're in the building. So let us do it like this. You know, we are connecting Christ and culture. Um, and we just came off of the holiday weekend with Juneteenth and also Father's Day. We're sorry, dads, that you now have to share the weekend with Juneteenth as well. But we hope everybody had an amazing weekend. But we thought it was appropriate in observance because we are 365 Black. Every day is Black history and Black excellence that we wanted to, in reflection of Juneteenth, have a very special thank you, Tiffany, for not letting me down. Thank you. I see you, family. I see you, Melanie. Thank you, main campus. We wanted to do something in observance of Juneteenth and celebrate Black history. We had an amazing three-part series with Dr. Williams back in May for our on-site noonday Bible study, and you all were so receptive that we couldn't let our online community down. So we are glad to have Dr. Williams back and to have Pastor Johnson to facilitate that conversation with him in our second segment. So let me move out the way because the family is in the building on tonight. Thank you all for being here. And again, if we have any online ministry friends with us, virtually visiting with us from another church, let us know that you're here in the upper room with us on tonight. If that be in Indianapolis, any of the surrounding cities, the state, the country, throughout the world, let us know that you are in the building with us on tonight. So shout out your church's name and your pastor as well. And we are so delighted to have you. Family, thank you again for being in the upper room. Let somebody know that we are live right now from Eastern Star Church. Just a couple of ministry reminders. We want to thank everybody for coming out for Vacation Bible School. We want to thank all of our participants, our volunteers, ministry leaders, and staff who stayed on the move to be in attendance and support VBS at all three locations. You all came out in great numbers, and it was a great time of fellowship and learning in community. And so we want to encourage you to celebrate and to reflect and visit our website and social media for photos, videos, and an official recap in the near future. Thank you to those who shared your experience as well, and you tagged us on Facebook or Instagram. And we want to give you the opportunity to, family, right now to drop any of your comments, your reflections of your experience of VBS this year. You can drop those in the chat at this time. We want to remind you that now that VBS is over, Wednesday in the Word and Worship is back in effect as our 7 a.m. prayer call continues.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Norman, and I am your ESC Online Ministry Leader. We do apologize for the technical difficulties here. Hopefully, we can get Miss Dee Dee back shortly, but in the meantime, we will move on in our program and jumpstart our Bible is Black History segment. So, I am going to bring up Pastor Jeffrey A. Johnson Sr., as well as Pastor Dr. Theron D. Williams. Hello, Pastor Johnson. How are you? You're muted.
There we go. How are you, Ashley?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you.
Good. Hello, Dr. Theron. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much.
All righty. I will hop off the screen and let you both get to it.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you, Minister Dee Dee Gray. And welcome to everybody that's connected with us on tonight. We appreciate you giving us a chance to talk about something we believe is very vital to the Black church and to the church as at whole, and those of us who are Christians trying to understand the truth of God, knowing that the truth will set you free. So we appreciate all of you. Appreciate Minister Dee Dee Gray and, of course, Ashley working behind the scene, and the staff and volunteers that work behind the scene to make sure that we can do this Upper Room live. And we're so glad to have you to be a part of what we're doing. On tonight, we have Dr. Theron D. Williams, Senior pastor of the Mount Carmel Church in Indianapolis, Indiana, and also on the board of directors for Virginia Union University, his alma mater, and also is the founder and president of the Bible is Black History Institute. Dr. Williams, welcome to the Upper Room Live.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Pastor. I appreciate it.
Well, we're all looking forward to the conversation we're going to have on tonight. We know that you have written quite a few books, and we want to get into those, but we're going to start with two. We're going to start with the Bible is Black History, and we want to start with the Black church and white theology. Can you just kind of talk about those just for a little bit, and then tell us how you got started? What brought you to that? Why did you decide that you needed to write these books?
Well, the Bible is Black History. You know, James Cone and J.D. Otis Roberts, Gayrod Wilmore, those guys had already drew the parallel between the biblical Israelites and the African American struggle, constant struggle for liberation and justice. They drew that parallel. And so James Cone talks about Jesus, who is a Hebrew, and Jesus' mission statement found in Luke 4, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor, to set the captive free, recovery of sight to the blind, and to set at liberty those who are oppressed. And Dr. Cone said, that's how you know you have a Holy Ghost-led ministry, because Jesus said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, and it led me into a ministry of liberation. And so he drew a parallel between the struggles of Jesus Christ with colonial Rome, who had colonized Israel, and the Black experience in America. And so he therefore said Jesus was Black, not so much in his complexion, but in his experience. And so I'm coming along and saying, okay, yeah, that is true. There is a parallel, an existential or theological parallel, historical parallel between African Americans and the biblical Israelites. But there is also a racial commonality that I'm bringing into the mix that even strengthen and deepen our solidarity with the biblical Israelites. So that was one of the reasons that I needed to write The Bible is Black History. And of course, it's a lot of history and not a lot of theology. Cone and those cats had already done the theology. I just wanted to do the history to show through DNA, through genetics, through history, archaeology, and just sheer common sense, how how people of African descent are the descendants of the biblical Hebrews. Not so much people here in the United States, though I am finding, Pastor, that Jews were in West Africa early on. They were in West Africa and they were practicing Judaism in West Africa. They were practicing a very crude, unrefined version of Judaism. Of course, Judaism, the word doesn't even appear in the Bible, but that's what it is. They were practicing the religion of Moses long before Judaism had gotten to Europe. And they were doing it in West Africa. And so when the European explorers went over to Africa and they saw these people practicing this religion, they didn't recognize it as biblical Judaism. And so they wrote it off as voodoo and as heathenistic and paganism and all of that. But really, some of these groups and tribes in Africa were practicing a crude, unrefined form of Judaism. And so, the Black Hebrew Israelites talk about how West Africa, how we are the descendants of the West Africans. That's how we got here. And so they're saying that there may have been we may have some Black Hebrew Israelite, descendants. We just may be. I don't know. I'm still looking into that. So I just wanted to draw that parallel and let us look at the connection that we as people of African descent have with the biblical Israelites. So that's what prompted me to write that book.
Well, I'm excited that you wrote it, and I know that we need it. I am interested in the Black church white theology as well. I'm trying to figure out who influenced you. Where did the educators, the ministers, the authors? I know I really didn't hear about Blacks in the Bible and how prevalent it was until 1990, when I heard King Hope Felder for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I learned about Walter McCrae and William Dwight McKissick. So who were some of the influencers that helped shape your thought process and theology to get you to where you are now?
Those guys that you just named, because they were doing it. They were McKissick and McCrae. They weren't doing theology per se. I know McKissick was looking at the individuals in the Bible who would have been Black people, and excuse me, and McCrae was more along my lines. He was arguing that most of the people of the Bible were Black. I'm arguing all of them were. I mean, if you go back and look at Abraham, his name, the suffix Ham, which means hot or black, was added to Abram, making his name Abraham, which means the exalted Black father. They said Ham means black, and so it does mean black. So if you add that as a suffix to Abram's name, black goes in Abraham's name. And then, man, he is from the Iraq area, the Chaldeans, that area up in there. That's where the thing started. And I was looking at images in catacombs, on surfaces and all of that, up in that Persian Iraq area where Abraham is from. And the people that they are depicting are Black people. During the time of Abraham, that's how far back it dates. They were Black people. And back in antiquity, only the movers and shakers got their images memorialized. And these were Black people. So Abraham, before Abraham, you have descended, oh my goodness, I'm getting old, man. I'm forgetting all these names and all that. But we know, what's the dude's name who established Babylon, a descendant of Abraham, a descendant of, no, not a descendant of Abraham, but a descendant of Noah who established Babylon. Anyway, we all know him. He's in the Bible. He's a black man. He's a Hamite. He's a descendant of Ham. And he goes to the Babylonian area, which is where Iraq is. He starts a civilization there.
You talking about Nimrod?
Nimrod starts a civilization there. And we know Nimrod is black. So he goes up to the Iraq area, the Chaldea area. He starts several communities, several empires all over there up in Iraq. Either they were already black when he went up there, or there was a African migration up to that part, up in, which is where Abraham is from. So I'm arguing, and it's not difficult for me to believe that they were black. You know, I mean, all your life, Pastor, and all my life, I thought they were white. And it didn't matter to me, you know. So it was easy for me to conceive that they were white because of my brainwashing. Now I'm trying to unbrainwash myself. It's easy for me to conceive that they were black.
I wrote a sermon a little while ago, and I was looking at when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. I called you to get some insight because when I use commentaries, those who are commenting on the text, commentaries, I don't just look at those who've written books about that passage. I look at others who could comment on it, living commentaries, living letters. So I called you, and I was talking about when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, that there were those who tried to kill Jesus and Lazarus. And here's what you told me, because you know the Sadducees, they didn't believe in the resurrection of the dead. And now here comes Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. You said this: there are those who would rather kill you than to rethink their theology. As you get us to rethink our theology after being whitewashed by white evangelical theology, to now understand these are black people. How have you been received in the church?
The reception has been mixed. And I think the reason for the negativity, the people who push back on it, because to rethink this is too doggone hard. It's too hard to undo what we've been taught our entire lives and rethink, you know, where we're going from this point forward. They know there's some validity to it. They give assent to that. They say, yeah, this is real. This is the, but it's too difficult rethinking this stuff and moving forward. So they would rather just take the nice little package that it has been packaged for them for all of these years, all of these decades, and keep it nice, neat, and clean. I got my little package. Don't tear my package up because I like it just like this. I got it all figured out. And then here I come asking people to rethink that. You know, let's go back and rethink it. Let's relook at it. Because what we have taken from white evangelicalism, we have taken their theology, we have taken their interpretation, their commentaries, and man, we have just uncritically accepted it. You know, we just swallowed it. We didn't chew it up. We didn't examine it. We didn't look at it critically. We just accepted it, and that was that. And so now I'm asking us, no, let's rethink it. It might be okay, but you'll never know that until you take it apart, look at it, and examine it. So my reception has been mixed, more positive, far more positive than negative, especially at the HBCUs. You know, they've been really, really excited about it. In fact, I just left Kentucky this morning for the National Baptist Congress, and I had a booth up with my books for sale. And several people who were in seminary came by, picked up the book, said, I heard about it. I'm doing a paper on it, or I'm doing a debate on it, or whatever. And I'm glad you're here, so I get a chance to get it from you and have the book signed. So Black people are accepting it for the most part, but there are some who are pushing back against it. So it's mixed.
Okay, you mentioned the Black church. You mentioned academia, the educational institutions. What about the community at large? Because everybody that you're reaching are not Christians, not a part of church, and not a part of the academy. So what about the community at large? And because I know the Bible's Black history and Black church, white theology, it's not just national, it's international. It's really, that's the knowledge is getting out there. So how has the community at large been responding?
Well, that too has been mixed, Pastor. The younger generation seems to be more receptive to it. It is something that they've been looking forward to. It's something that they embrace. They had the same feelings that I had, but they just didn't have the theological training to be able to articulate it. So I'm articulating what they've been thinking, and so that provides some gravitas. It causes them to gravitate around the message. And then there are others who, and from the broader community who are aware of the Bible. There are people who say, well, what difference does it make? I mean, he's Black, so what? White theology has always been in the church. So what difference does it make if we relook at it, or if we change it, or if we alter it, or if we challenge it? What difference is that going to make in the Black community? Which gives me an opportunity to do some talking to them about how our theology, like you always say, affects our sociology. So when we get our theology right, that helps to influence and shape our sociology.
Yeah, I used to do a radio program a few years ago with Radio One, and that's when Mel Gibson's Passion of Christ came out, and of course, with a white, blonde hair, blue-eyed, pale white skin depiction of Jesus, and so I brought that up, and we were getting calls saying, "Color doesn't make a difference. Why are you bringing it up?" Well, if color doesn't make a difference, why they make him white? Why not make him Black? I think truth always makes a difference. There's an anthropological truth. I don't want 2,000 years from now, they do a movie about Martin Luther King, and then Dr. King is blonde hair, blue-eyed, and pale white skin with the civil rights movement. I want the depiction to represent a Black man, because it was a Black man that did it. I believe in truth. So I appreciate you, the Bible's Black history. I appreciate you helping us to rethink our theology. Hopefully nobody's going to try to kill you rather than rethink their theology. They're going to read it, try to grasp it and understand it, and then think through it. And let the revelation that we get through God's Holy Spirit help them to see what the truth is. I know you have some other works besides the Bible's Black history and Black church white theology. What are some of the other works you've been working on?
Okay, but before you do that, you talked about Dr. King, in 2,000 years from now they make a movie about him and he's white. You don't have to wait 2,000 years. They just did that to Michael Jackson. In the movie Michael, Marlon, and Elizabeth, it was a movie about Elizabeth Taylor, Marlon Brando, and Michael Jackson. They cast a white man to play Michael Jackson. We also saw Michael grow up. We grew up with Michael Jackson, big afro, broad nose. We know his mother and his father. We know his family members. But yet sometimes they can be so brazen, Pastor, that they would do it while you are looking right at them. And so they cast MJ. They had a white man, to cast him. You ain't got to wait that long. So they've been co-opting us for so long, and they've been doing that job to us in Africa. And you talked about what other works that we've been doing. We've been, I did a lecture at your church, and I've done lectures all over. and I've done virtual lectures in other parts of the world and country and that type of thing. And many of the concerns that the audience have, they bring them up, we talk about it. And that caused me to go back and start rethinking how I can follow up with the Bible is Black History, which is what I'm working on now. The Bible is Black History and beyond, because there are so many things that I have learned in these past few years as I have lectured and taught on this topic. And one of the things that I'm looking at is the Jews in Africa, African Jews, how long African Jews have been there. You know, some migrated from Israel and set up in different spots all over the continent of Africa. And it's fascinating because, you know, when you're doing this type of research, you read everybody. And you have some white scholars, historians, theologians, geographers, ethnologists who are twisting themselves into intellectual, theological, historical pretzels, trying to keep Black people out of the world narrative. You know, even you go all the way back to Egypt with the pyramids, which is 4,000 or 5,000 years old. This is when Egypt was Nubian Black, 4,000 or 5,000 years old, and they can't figure out the pyramids. How can these Black folks do this and white folk are not involved? And when they found out white folk weren't involved, they couldn't give Black folk credit. Here is what some trained historian, theologians, geographers said. We were invaded with aliens from another planet, and they built the pyramids. And instead of giving Black genius the credit, they would come up with a theory that somebody came from outer space to Earth and built the pyramids and then left. It is so difficult for some segments of our society to give the credit to Black genius, you know. And when you start talking about how the Jews may have migrated from Israel into Africa and took their religion with them and started practicing Judaism, and they have the blood in them that linked them to Palestine during the biblical times. You know, we're finding all of this out, and it's fascinating how people are pushing back against it and don't want us to talk about it.
Dr. Williams, I know that because I was in my late 20s when I first started hearing about this, about the prevalence of Black people and Black places and Black contribution in Scripture. But I know that you're helping people to get that before they get in their late 20s. So you've done things with children, with women, with men. Tell us a little bit about some of those writings that you have.
Okay. Well, we have the Bible is Black History Children Edition, you know, because as we talk about this in different places, the conversation is always, well, what do you have for children? You know, my kids need this. And so it made me go back and do a few children books, you know, the Bible is Black History Children's Edition, and then the Bible is Black History Alphabet book. And with the Children's Edition, there is a Children's Edition activity book where you have crossword puzzles and line games and find a word and all of that. Coloring pages, you know, their Bible's Black History crayons, so that we can have our kids to participate in the Bible story, give them the brown crayon and let them color the characters brown, so they understand that this is who we are. And that has been extremely helpful. As a matter of fact, what's the sister name with Mary? The group Mary. Well, anyway, she has a radio show every day. And I was on her radio show maybe a year ago. And during the commercial break, she said to me, Pastor Williams, I have your books and stuff, and I use them in my children's ministry at our church. And I said, well, can you say that? Radio show started. I'm sorry, I can't. We can't promote it and endorse it. You know, so it's been used with people, you know, everywhere quite a bit. And then we have for young adults.
Well, I could say it. I use it with my grandchildren, man. So I use the children's books and the children's activity book with my grandchildren because I don't want them to wait till they're in their 20s before they realize who they are in Scripture. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. What else you got besides the children?
Yeah, man. You talked about that, and I have an illustration of the 12 tribes of Israel, and they're all black. And you were flipping through the book, and you looked at Erica Campbell. I'm sorry, that's her name. You were flipping through the book, and you pointed at Levi and said, "Man, that's me," as if I drew the picture. I didn't draw the picture. I had an illustration.
You used my image for Levi, man. I appreciate the props you gave me, man.
Yeah, man. So you're Levi from now on to me. But anyway, yeah, we have a children's book, and then we have a great women of the Bible, and we look at 8 women in the Bible, and of course, the Bible of Black History. These were sisters, and we appreciate them. We study them against the backdrop of their historical reality, and you will be surprised. Many people, you probably won't, but many people will be surprised how much Black women in the United States of America have in common with the ancient women of Israel. All the stuff that they went through, women in our culture go through as well. You know, it's striking. And then we have the great heroes of the Bible, young heroes of the Bible. And we look at 8 young men in the Bible who made a real difference. And of course, we look at them against the backdrop of their historical reality, which match our reality. And so, and then at the end of each chapter, there are questions, discussion questions, because the name of it is Young Heroes of the Bible, Contemporary Conversations. And so at the end of each chapter, you have an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation about what you just looked at, what you just read, and how that looks like your reality and how we respond, because they provide a model for us as to how we can respond in similar circumstances. So that's the collection. It's an 8-book collection, and I'm working on book number 9.
All right. We should have a sister in our church named Nancy Silvers Rogers. She's a former deputy mayor of Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
And she was on staff at our church, and she's a great administrator. And when we strategizing and planning as a team, she would always talk about outcomes. What do we want for our outcomes before we even get into the rest of it? When we get finished, what's success for us? What does that look like? What are we trying to get to? So what kind of outcomes out of the Bible's Black History, the Institute, the books that you've authored, what do you want to see from the Black church?
I want us to at least begin to have the conversation about our uniqueness as a Black church, as Black Christians. I want us to look at ourselves and rethink the theology that has been handed to us. Because in my book, Black Church, White Theology, I look at a brilliant author named Walter Wink, and Walter Wink talks about the domination system, how this world is in a system of domination with hierarchical, with the powerful at the top, and as you descend that hierarchy, the less powerful, then at the bottom is the weak, who is always disproportionately marginalized. And then Isabel Wilkerson, in her book, Caste, The Origin of Our Discontent, she says to Wink, yes, we do have a domination system, and it is hierarchical. But in America, the ranking metric for that domination system is race, with the white race at the top. And as you descend, the darker the races become, and we're constrained at the bottom. So from that hierarchy, from that matrix, emerges theologies. Black theology emerged from that matrix, from the bottom rung. And part of the function of Black theology is to work to collapse that hierarchy so that we can have equality. You know, also on one of the bottom rung is poor people. And so you have liberation theology for poor folk. And liberation theology also seeks to collapse that hierarchy because poor people are at the bottom and they're suffering under the weight of that hierarchy. Then you have womanist theology. Women are not at the top. They're also at the bottom. You got men at the top, women at the bottom. And so you have womanist theology whose function is also to deal with this structure of oppression and domination in order to collapse that hierarchy so that they can have equal access to power and opportunity. But then also white evangelical also emerge from that structure, but they're at the top. Their theology is not designed to collapse that hierarchy. Their theology is designed to justify the hierarchy, to keep that hierarchy in place so that white people can continue to enjoy their place of privilege. And so you have this competition. You have Black people at the bottom with Black theology trying to collapse the system, and you have white people at the top of the hierarchy trying to sustain the system. Here's what I want you ask for. What outcomes I would like to see. I would like to see the Black church understand that when you accept and embrace white evangelical theology, you become complicit in your own oppression. You become complicit in holding that structure in place that keep you and your children at the bottom. And so when people have that type of eye-opening experience, then they will begin to say, okay, I get it now. I get now why the Southern Baptist Convention just voted not to allow women to be pastors in their convention. That's that hierarchy with men at the top, women at the bottom. They just showed you we will use theological justification to keep you at the bottom, which they did to Black people for years, using theological justification to verify and to justify slavery, keeping them at the bottom. So when you start talking about white evangelicalism, everywhere there is oppression, white evangelicalism is on the side of the oppressor, whether it's labor over management, whether it's white police dominating people of color, whether it's women in ministry or women in the household or women in society or women having say over their own bodies, whether it's Black people, white evangelicals is always on the side of the oppressor, which is the diametric opposite of what Jesus was. He was always on the side of the oppressed. So how in the world can you take the religion of Jesus, put him on your side, and make Jesus an oppressor, make Jesus complicit in your oppression?
Dr. Theron Williams, we definitely appreciate your work and what you're doing. We're going to allow those who are part of this Upper Room Live to ask questions so that they can get the answer directly from you. So those that want to participate, you can get in the chat or comments and ask your questions. And I'm sure Dr. Williams will be excited. We'll get to as many as we possibly can and allow you to get the knowledge that I know that God would have for you, to receive at this time. While we're waiting on them to think those questions out and get them in the chat or in the comments, tell us a little bit about the Bible is Black History Institute. What are you doing with the Institute?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. The Bible is Black History Institute is dedicated to training people on a deeper level. This stuff you asked for outcomes, Pastor. This is one of them. To train people on a deeper level about this whole the Bible is Black history, Black church white theology, where it came from, and that type of thing. And this fall, we are planning to have an online institute. It's going to be 4 9-week semesters, 2 classes per semester. And that will be 36 weeks. And you will be able to get continuing education units from Virginia Union University, and you will have a certification from the Bible is Black History, which certifies you to teach this on a church level. And it also provides resources so that you can continue to study in this area. Because, you know, Pastor, they're not teaching this in seminaries. They're not teaching it in college. They're not teaching it anywhere. You know, so this type of information has to get out to our community. And so that's what the Bible is Black History is going to be doing this fall. And you know, I have all of the information and the promotional materials out there so that anybody who is interested in enrolling in the Bible is Black History Institute can do that.
And I was on a Zoom meeting during the pandemic with several Black, white, Latino ministers and professors. And we were talking about social injustice. And one Presbyterian pastor said he was in shock because he finally discovered that Jesus came to save people from people like him. So somebody wants to know, how has white America responded to the Bible's Black History and Black church white theology?
It's been mixed as well, you know, but far more on the negative side. There are some white people who, as a matter of fact, I got an email from a white brother just last week before last, who said, I read your book, Black Church White Theology. It was interesting. You introduced me to Walter Wink. I went and read all the Walter Wink stuff. And, you know, it's fascinating how you use Wink material and integrated it in your book of Black Church White Theology. And I would just like to sit down and have a conversation with you. And I said, cool, as soon as I get back from the convention, here's my number. Give me a call. Let's do it. 2 years ago, I was invited during the pandemic, I was invited to do a radio interview with a white pastor. It's called The Rev and the Rabbi. They're in Boston. And so the Rev, who was a white evangelical pastor, and the rabbi, they co-host this radio show, and they had me on as a presenter, and the white evangelical pastor loved it. You know, he said, this is good stuff. This is great information and all that type of thing. So it has been mixed, but overwhelmingly, you know, I'm divisive, I'm evil, I'm anti-Semitic, I'm a Marxist, you name it, I'm that. And the reason I'm that is because I push back against white domination. And whenever you push back against white domination, you threaten the status quo and you call into question white privilege, and they want to keep their privilege. So they will push anybody down so that they might maintain their white privilege. So it's been mixed, but overwhelmingly it's been negative.
Oh Lord. Okay. The current state of Israel, and of course, focusing on Jerusalem, all of us are confused by what people say is going on and what we should be doing. So, as Black Christians, what should we know? What's going on over there? How should we be praying, and how is it linked to white evangelical theology?
Yeah, well, first of all, many of the Ashkenazi Jews that I've discovered, and let me tell you that I used 2 Jewish scholars to reinforce what I'm saying, because they wrote about it before I ever started writing about it. And I went and picked up some of their material. And they argue that the Jews that we know as Ashkenazi are not indigenous to Israel, but they converted to Judaism in the 7th century AD. Their genetic formation goes back not to Israel, but to Eastern Europe. You know, they were practicing shamanism before they embraced Judaism. And when they embraced Judaism, it wasn't because they wanted a religion, but because they needed a religion to validate them as a superpower. So you had two other great superpowers. You had a superpower in the East, the Constantinians, and they already had Christianity. You had another superpower in the East, which was the Muslims. They already had Islam. So you got Christianity, you have Islam. So you have the Jews, or the Eastern Bloc country, trying to figure out, what are we going to be? If we embrace Christianity, that's going to tick the Muslims off. If we embrace Islam, that's going to tick Christians off. So what can we do? They said, we got an idea. We'll take Islam. We'll take Judaism, because the scripture in Judaism are both in the Quran and in Christianity. So Christians respected Jews, and the Muslim respected Jews. And so they said, we're satisfying both. We're not taking anybody off, and they both respect our sacred text. And so they embraced Judaism, not because they wanted to be Jews, but because they needed a religion to validate who they are. So that's how they became Jews. Now, there are, and when the Jews were being persecuted all over the world in the 7th century, 6th, 5th, and 4th centuries, when Eastern Europe embraced Judaism, they said, okay, now we have somewhere we can go where we can practice Judaism and be free from persecution. So many of them, and they were called the Khazarians, many of them went up to Khazar and started practicing Judaism, many of whom were Black. Now, I was reading Shlomo Sand, who wrote the book, The 13th Tribe. And Sand was saying that there were Black Khazarians, or Black European Jews, but he never told us where they came from. He just said there were some who were Black. I contend the Black Khazarians were the Jews that were indigenous to Israel and Africa, who left there looking for a place where they can practice their religion freely. And they found that in Khazaria, which is in Eastern Europe. There was some inbreeding. And so now you have some white Jews who do have the genetic link to Israel, but they got it through miscegenation, or through marrying outside of their race. So now the average falasha of Ethiopia, now those were shown enough Jews who migrated from Israel to Ethiopia, they have up to 25% genetic material that connect them to Palestine during biblical time. The average Ashkenazi Jew, or the Khazarian, has none. And those who do have it is only up to 1.9% genetic connection to Israel. 1.9 over against 25%. But they have been recognized as the Jews. They've been recognized as the descendants of the biblical Israelites. So,
well, we definitely appreciate your insight and your research and your study to help us to think through that. Freddie Haynes, our good friend, Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes III, he talks about that we need to stop focusing on the white Jesus and start focusing on the right Jesus. Even when we look in the ancestry of Jesus as written in scripture, it's full of Black people. Mm-hmm. It's full of Africans. Mm-hmm. But yet the image that we see, not just in America, when I travel the world, that white Jesus is already there when I land, man. Blonde hair, blue eyes, pale white skin. And there are black people, man, they think that was really they think somebody took a cell phone, took a picture of Jesus, and we've been having that since the first century. So how do we deal with our own family, friends, and church members with this white Jesus that's been imprinted in their mind and in their head?
I think instead of getting upset with them, we have to be patient because they have been victimized. They're victims of white supremacy, and so to tear into them by saying, what's wrong with you? You stupid, you dumb, you this, you that, you the other, because we have to do it with patience and with teaching and with love, and hopefully, and a whole lot of prayer, and hopefully in time we'll get it turned around, because the bombardment of white Jesus on this culture is not going to stop. It's just not. And they know Jesus didn't look like that, but they continue to bombard society with that. And the reason is because white Jesus is needed for white evangelicalism, which is the theological arm for white supremacy. They need it. They have to have white Jesus. You get rid of white Jesus, you get rid of the theological foundation for white supremacy. Robert P. Jones in his book, White Too Long. This is a white brother who wrote about white evangelicals. He said he used to be one, and he came out of it and looked back at it and saw how terrible it was. And he says that he said, if you had a racist cause, a white nationalist racist cause, he said, you'll have more success on a Sunday morning recruiting people from the average white church than you would sitting out at a Starbucks on Sunday morning. So that white evangelicalism and that white Jesus is inbred not only in us, in our culture. Right now, when I close my eyes and think of Jesus, that image stands a chance of popping up. It's somewhere in there, because it's been in us. And so that white Jesus is not going anywhere soon. And what we have to do is love our people and teach our people, pray for our people. And in time, we hope that it'll turn around.
Well, we're going to give you one more question because I want to respect your time. And I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge about this. And I know that you're trying to get to the NBA draft. So I don't want to keep you.
Man, don't be projecting on me what you about to do.
This white evangelical theology and the influence in the black church and black community. We're living in a time of apostasy, this falling away, this falling back. Does that white theology, does it have anything to do with that and the influence on the black church?
I think it's the main culprit, not only in the black church. A lot of young white people are leaving the white evangelical church for this very reason. They are tired of hearing the lies. They are tired of seeing the hypocrisy. They're tired of seeing their parents dog out Barack Obama for 8 years, who has a spotless moral record, a family man, a husband, a churchman, no scandals, period. You may disagree with his politic, but him as a person, as a moral human being, at least his public persona seems to me to be flawless. I don't know the man personally, but his public persona appears to me to be flawless. These children, these white children, saw their parents call him the devil, call him this, call him that, and then turn around and vote for the most immoral president or person the United States of America has ever seen in Donald Trump, and support him as if he is a Messiah. And those children are sitting back looking like, this makes no sense. And you're doing this in the name of God? And so you got a whole lot of young white evangelicals or children of evangelical. They're leaving the church, and for the black church, we have to take some of the responsibility because we have not taught as much as we should have what it means to be a black Christian. We have not thought through our theology clearly enough so that our young people can understand this is who I am, this is who we are. You know what I mean? We've not done a good job of that. And so yeah, the apostasy and the falling away has a lot to do with this white evangelicalism, man, which is toxic. And in the long run, it will kill Christianity. It's not going to kill Jesus, but it'll kill Christianity. I believe it will if it continues at the rate it's going. It's insane.
It's not going to continue because we have the Bible is Black history. We have Black church, white theology, and all the works that you're putting out there, and some other Black geniuses like yourself that are helping us to understand how Black people fit in Scripture and in our society as Christians. And I want to thank you for that. Thank you for taking time to hang out with us in our Upper Room Live. And I certainly appreciate everybody that's been a part of this. And I want to remind our congregation too, we're back in Bible study at noon and at night at each of the locations. So make sure you're showing up, open your heart, mind, and soul to be a part of that. And that sounds like Freddie. That looked like Freddie Haynes trying to get on this thing, man. So I love all of y'all. I appreciate you, Dr. Theron Williams. Thank you very much. I guess I got to give it to Minister D.D. Gray. It's on you now. Thank you very much. Minister D.D. Gray.
Yes, sir. I'm here. Thank you so much, Pastor Johnson and Dr. Williams, all of our church family and ministry friends. Thank you all for signing on tonight. We hope that you have enjoyed this discussion and that you will stay connected with Dr. Williams. As you see there across the screen, there's information about the Bible is Black History Institute. So make sure that you stay connected for all of Dr. Williams' current projects, upcoming projects. We answered in the chat that you can visit the BibleIsBlackHistory.com for more information about the institute that he brought up as well. So make sure you stay connected. Family, will you put your virtual hands together and thank God for Pastor Johnson and Dr. Williams for hanging out in the upper room with us on tonight. We appreciate you. You all stay tuned. I have just a few reminders. We do apologize for the technical difficulties earlier, but I'm so glad that it all worked together because we were able to jump right into the conversation on tonight. And thank you all for showing your love in the comment section. As Pastor mentioned, we are back for Wednesday in the Word and Worship. So make sure you stay connected for our 7 a.m. prayer call. We have the men of purpose that are leading us in prayer for the month of June. And then on July 5th, we know it's the day after the holiday, but it is also the mid-year. We are already mid-year. So we want to take time on July 5th to have a special mid-year intercessory prayer. So there'll be no highlights, no devotionals or anything of that matter. We're going to have a time of, we're going to have a time of intercessory prayer on that morning. So no special announcements or devotion. Will lean in for prayer on that morning. And then beginning July 12th, our Ignite and Crew, our youth and young adult will lead us in prayer for the month of July. So make sure you save the date for that. And then our evening Bible study is back 7 p.m. All locations for a new summer series, part 1 on an 8-week study. So that's the update. We normally do 6 weeks or 5 weeks, but this will be an 8-week study entitled Everything You Need: 8 Essential Steps to a Life of Confidence by Dr. David Jeremiah. So that is on site only, all 3 campuses at 7 p.m. For our Wednesday, our evening Bible study. Scholarship deadline, ESC scholarship deadline. It opened on January 31st. It closes Friday, June 23rd on tomorrow. So make sure you get your submissions in. Close of business 6 p.m. for all qualifying submissions. And that is for ESC members only. So visit easternstarchurch.org/teams for details. We also have the Wills and Trust Seminar will be at 9 a.m. at the main campus. That is under the leadership of Tracy Bowman, our ESC Stewardship Manager. So for more information, email ffi@easternstarchurch.org or visit easternstarchurch.org/ffi to register by close of business tomorrow at 6 p.m. Also, we want to remind you, new members orientation is back for this month. That'll be on Saturday. And please note that the location is Cooper Road, our Cooper Road campus, 5805 Cooper Road, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46228. That is under the leadership on site and in person of Annetta Coleman, our Director of Family Connection and Membership. There will also be an online or virtual session on Sunday, June 25th from 3 to 5 p.m. via Zoom. So visit easternstarchurch.org. You click on Member Services at the top of the page, then click on the new Member Orientation graphic tab. And that's where you'll be able to locate all criteria, contacts, and to complete the registration by close of business Friday at 6 p.m. That's for on-site and online. We want to remind you that this Sunday, June 25th, we are continuing to observe our pastor's 35th pastoral anniversary. And this Sunday is Anniversary Sunday at all 3 campuses, and we will have a special musical guest, Isaiah Templeton, at all 3 services. If you do not know who he is, please Google him. You will be blessed. So we want you to be at all 3 of our services. We encourage you to visit easternstarchurch.org, where you can sign the virtual anniversary booklet. You can see the timeline and be able to connect and be a part of the celebration with us on this Sunday. So, family, make sure you stay tuned, follow the star on Facebook, Instagram, and be able to get all of the updates. Stay connected with us for all of our activities as far as dialogues, our Pastors Pick online book club special that'll kick off next Thursday via Zoom. You can register now. ESC Graduate Sunday at all campuses. We're celebrating everyone from 8th grade promotions to high school through postgraduate degrees. We're encouraging you to wear your cap, gown, cords, and stoles, and otherwise dress in your dress or church attire. And you can register now at easternstarchurch.org/events. Make sure too, in our community spotlight, we are featuring Indiana Black Expo Summer Celebration beginning July 6th through the 16th. The ecumenical service will take place on Thursday, July 6th at 7 p.m. at Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, located at 1003 West 16th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46202. The host pastor is Reverend Dr. Carl Z. Liggins. And the featured speaker, guest preacher, will be Bishop-elect Marvin L. Wine and Sr. And the citywide ecumenical choir will be under the direction of our very own Sherry Garrison, and also Indy's own Lamar Campbell. And then closing out summer celebration will be the annual Gospel Explosion, featuring gospel recording artist Kurt Carr and local church choirs and gospel groups at the Indiana Convention Center, 100 South Capitol Avenue, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46225. And that will be at the entertainment stage, and admission is free. Finally, we want to remind you our care center. We have our pop-up food distributions in community partnership with the Midwest Food Bank of Indiana. We are in need of volunteers. So please log on to esccare.org and sign up for first and third Mondays from 2 to 5 p.m. at the Care Center. There are select dates, and we really, really need all hands and hearts to be on hand to help us feed the hungry. Family, again, thank you for tuning in on tonight. Share this live with somebody. Like, love, and share. And again, remember to follow the star and stay connected for all of our ministry updates, our events and activities. We love you so much. Thanks again for hanging out in the Upper Room Live on tonight. We thank you for your patience with our rare occasion for technical difficulties on tonight. But just again, so thankful for you to hang in there and that we were able to have more time to have conversation with Pastor Johnson and Dr. Williams. So again, share this live, like, love, and follow us. Have an amazing week, family, a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you at church, on site, online, one church, 3 locations, Eastern Star Church. We love you. God bless.